Okay, here we go. Oops, on. Okay, just doing this real quick mow. You know, I wasn't really planning on mowing tonight, but everybody at work was like, hey, you gonna go home and mow since you're off early? And I really didn't get off early. I kind of just got off at normal time for a Monday. So then I felt like I had to come out and mow. Sorry, my mount seems like it's a little loose. So I'm just gonna do this real quick. We're just doing the putting green. No big deal. Gonna do it kind of slow. So I still have the 24-hour grub killer on here, the Dialox. You know, as I talked about in my live yesterday, you know, I had that. I don't even know that it was the crane fly larvae. You know, it probably more likely was a different type of, and now I forgot the name of it. Anyways, it doesn't matter what it was. It was something, and the birds were going after it. I have no attacks on my lawn tonight when I got home from work. Sorry, I didn't mean to do 2 laps there. So that was at least a good sign. The birds are not attacking my lawn now. And that was all I was trying to get done. Because, you know, they were attacking the putting green and just tearing it up. Mostly in this area right here where I'm mowing right now. This whole edge over here was I'd come home and there'd be, you know, holes, grass pulled up. And, you know, the bent grass recovers so quickly that it's not like a huge deal, but I don't like to come home and see, you know, my putting green, you know, kind of tore up. So I had to, you know, do something about that. And, you know, like I said in my video, and like I talk about always, you know, if you have a problem, you have to identify it and figure out what kind of treatment and confirm the problem. And that's exactly what I did with this. I knew the birds were attacking my lawn and going after something. I mean, it kind of didn't really make sense that it would be grubs. You know, although you know, you never know. There could be some grubs down in the lawn, but you know, everything that happened yesterday morning after I'd applied this 24-hour grub killer, you know, pointed at something different. It was still, you know, a larvae, and it was still something that the birds wanted to go after. But what confirmed it was, you know, I was just out here, you know, pulling weeds. What was it like? I think I was pulling weeds like Thursday after work. I was just kind of, you know, milling around. And I think it was after I did my mow, or maybe it was Friday. I didn't do a mow on Friday. Anyways, it doesn't matter what it was. I was pulling weeds, and in one of the weed clumps I pulled out, it was one of those, you know, brown, like crane fly. They're called leather jackets. And because their skin is kind of leathery and grayish and, you know, kind of hard. Anyways, when I saw that come out, I was like, oh, what the heck is this? And that was when I realized that I definitely have something going on, like that grub, or I didn't know what it was at the time. It wasn't until I did some research that I realized it was one of two things. They both kind of looked the same, but the difference in the two different species of, like I said, crane fly was one of them, and I can't remember the other one. I'm trying, but I just don't remember what it was. And oh, sorry, excuse me. So I don't know how I got off track here, but I did. I'll go back over here, redo this line. So once I confirmed, what the problem was and what a good treatment action was, that was when I went out and got the 24-hour grub killer, and it's trilorphin, something like that, is the active ingredient for Dialox, and you can buy straight Dialox. Anyways, I treated it. The next morning, all these, crane worms or crane larvae were on top of the, out of the ground, and it was just kind of crazy. So anyways, that issue seems to be handled now. And I didn't jump to any conclusions. I knew the birds had been tearing up my lawn. And I really wanted to figure out more why they were doing it than just start throwing something at it. I mean, I had suspicions it was, grubs or something. And I was thinking, 24-hour grub killer. But it wasn't until I confirmed what it was that I took action and went to taking care of the issue. So that's that. I'm just glad it was solved. But now it seems like we have a neighborhood mole. I talked about that a little yesterday too. Doug has a mole in his yard, fresh mole mound, and Kathy just texted me. I'm going to go over there and look at her lawn here just a little bit. But she texted me and said that she's got a mole. And I don't think it's the same one because Doug and Kathy's houses are, not major far apart, but they're far enough apart to where I don't think it's the same mole. But, our neighborhood backs up to the park, and it's a state park, and it's a really big state park. And, we get lots of wildlife from there. I mean, we have woodpeckers, we have rabbits, we have, of course, raccoons. We probably even have skunks that come around at night. There's coyotes. Just everything that comes with that kind of landscape. I mean, from the backside of the park here where I live to the beach, it's like a good mile walk, maybe a little more. So it's a really big park, and it's just all trees and bike trails and things like that. It's all natural, forest. And that's one of the things I like about the neighborhood I live in. It's just, that will always be there. There'll be no more building out there, and our neighborhood is pretty much at the end of the county, and the end of the line for where the city is, and we back up to the water, the Puget Sound. So I'm just going to do a real quick showing on the progress on the tenacity application, and then we'll just call it good because I got a couple things I want to do tonight. So I'm just trying to take the camera off here real quick. Assuming we're still connected. Oh, it says we're live. Okay, we're still connected. So the tenacity is starting to take a lot more effect on the bent grass, but it's definitely not doing the job I was hoping. If I do a wide shot here, you could just see all the little bent grass brown spots. Here's a really good one right here. So I think some of these areas that are getting hit a little harder are the tenacity was able to kind of get absorbed in a little bit more. And I'm watering a lot less right now. Because I'm hoping that's going to help get some of this bent grass to die out, dry out the ground a little bit. You see, this was a really big patch of bent grass, and this looks like it's actually dying off pretty good. You know, and then we have these spots here that are along the putting green, and this is just kind of the area I oversprayed a little bit all the way around. And this side yard area had quite a bit. Is there some grass on here? Clear that off. Just a lot more down here. And one real quick note that, you know, I was listening to some research today. And, you know, here's the putting green. So since I didn't water today, it's still kind of the same. I kind of got my blower out and blew a little bit. But yeah, so I was listening to a research discussion on a research project that was done over a few years. I think it was back in the 60s about wetting agents. But it's just another thing and another research paper that actually confirms the whole frequent light waterings is a better method of watering over deep and infrequent. And I'm going to tell you why. Just a real quick conclusion that kind of came out of this whole thing. You actually get more oxygen in your root zone through frequent and light waterings than deep and infrequent. Okay, and the research paper goes into all these different, you know, methods that they used of testing this with wetting agents, with different types of soil amendments, you know, peat moss, some sort of a redwood, something or other. And then there was one other thing. And so, you know, the research was pretty solid. And, you know, that just kind of confirms just kind of what I've always done all my life with my watering. And, you know, doing the light and frequent waterings. And, you know, I'm still putting out the same amount of water if I did deep and infrequent. I'm just splitting up the amount of time that I'm watering into, you know, twice a day, whatever. You know, like I said, I only water for like 3 minutes at a time, just enough to, you know, get some moisture in there. And especially during the summertime, you know, with the heat and all that stuff, we know we need to cool the roots down. We need to cool the soil down. You know, it's what's going to help keep your grass from going into stress. And then on top of that, we talked about yesterday potassium and how adding more potassium does nothing for heat stress. The only thing that helps with heat stress is the actual potassium being available in your soil. So if you say have 20 or 30 parts per million of potassium already in your soil, there's no reason to add more for heat stress. It's already there. It's already doing what it needs to do. And this is about enzymes and the creation of the root exudates and the process of how the plant deals with all the different stresses and things that it needs to help it survive. And so, you know, this is just more why I'm trying to help people understand and you know, think more about what they're putting on their lawn, why they're putting it on their lawn. You know, do you really need to put it on your lawn? What's telling you need to put it on your lawn? What signs is your lawn giving you that you need to put something on your lawn? And my whole crane fly larvae thing is just kind of a really good example of that, of how you need to, you know, You see a problem, you determine the cause, you come up with a solution at what's going to take care of that issue, no matter whether it's a nutrient problem, a pest problem, whatever. You just need to come up with a viable solution and deal with it and move on. Okay, your grass is going to tell you when it's having a problem. See, and look at this. All this right here, tenacity is, thinning out this area of my bent grass right here. This area gets a lot of kicked up bent grass from mowing the green. And this is exactly the areas that I'm trying to concentrate on. Hey, Mark, how you doing? So, just trying to get that all under control. And then just real quick, I'll talk about this area of the putting green, the back area. I'm going to remove all of this, hopefully this year. I'm starting to run out of time, but I'm going to remove all this bent grass in this area right here. This is all bent grass on this side. It's just not cut as short as the putting green. Putting green's 1.6 mil right now, and this is 6 millimeters. So that's the difference, and that also shows you kind of the difference in the look of the bent grass at 2 mowing heights, 1.6 millimeter putting green and 6 millimeter, whatever you want to call it, collar, fringe type of setting or scenario. This is actually probably too long for a fringe, I think, but so yeah, I want to remove all this and put Kentucky bluegrass back in here. And I think I'm actually going to probably take it out this far here. I need more area to turn around when I'm mowing the putting green. I hate to make my putting green smaller, but it's just what makes sense. So anyways, one of the other things I took away from the research today was talking about roots, and I need to re-listen to it and confirm, because this is what I heard, and I'm pretty positive I heard this correctly, but there is no real evidence that more roots, deeper roots, are going to give you better turf grass quality. Everybody talks about deep roots and getting the roots to grow deep and all those sorts of things, and the research that I'm following and understanding is there is no verification or no real info that says the deeper your roots, the better turf quality you're going to have. There is no proof of that. And on top of that, with the watering and everything like that, there's no proof that deep, infrequent watering is going to get you a better turf grass quality. In fact, it actually gives you a lesser. It doesn't mean that you can't do it, because you can do it, okay? But there's techniques to watering that are probably going to give you a better turf grass appearance and quality by light and frequent waterings. Anyways, that's what I got for you guys tonight. Just kind of doing a quick mow. Probably do another update tomorrow, because I think I'm going to mow the Kentucky bluegrass here tomorrow. That's kind of what it's looking like. Like I said, killing bent grass is a crappy process, especially when you have as much as I do on the lawn. But it's something that I really need to do, because the bent grass basically looks like POA.